Chapter 31 Make a Friend. You are listening at NovelsReturning. Fortunately, I didn't clamor for marriage or anything. Relying on her current body, Tao Yu took a cold shower and rubbed her whole body clean. Then she lay on her wooden bed, looked at the dimming night outside the paper window, and lit the lamp of will on the bedside. Prick your fingertip with a small needle and drop 2 drops of blood into the lamp oil. Although it was only a dim light the size of a soybean, it had a warm feeling to the room. Since it's mental immunity, it's okay not to light up tonight, right? Tao Yu thought about it in her heart, but she didn't act independently. This low-level lamp of will originally only had a certain protective effect in urban areas, preventing invisible monsters coming out of the gray fog. It is said that some powerful lamps of will lit by the fire of civilization can take people across the gray fog. Other cities, but due to the danger of gray fog, this kind of contact has become less and less now. Tao Yu has seen a few dusty foreign convoys arriving, bringing some special items from other cities. Because he had no relevant experience, Tao Yu did not try to go out at night and spent the first night back quietly, compared to Abyss, who had to sleep with one eye open. Although the environment at home was also very bad, it surprisingly made Tao Yu feel at ease. Even though there were occasional sounds of automatic cannons from other areas at night, it increasingly helped Tao Yu fall asleep and restore her tense spirit. Sure enough, humans are still group animals. Unfortunately, my talent means that I may have to act alone most of the time. Early the next morning, Tao Yu went out. Originally Tao Long wanted to come with him, but Tao Yu persuaded him to go back. The nearest walled city is not far from Tao Yu's home, less than 1 kilometer. Every time something is harvested on this farm, it is actually transported to this city for processing. There are more than a dozen such fortresses in the outer city. Although Tao Yu had already gotten up very early, a queue had already begun to form when he arrived at the gate of the walled city. They should all be people from outside the city who went to the walled city to work or set up stalls. Many people also used poles to carry various items. Planting goods. The walled city in front of us is also very abstract. The entrance is blocked by some abandoned oil barrels and barbed wire on some wooden frames. Walled city guards carrying various weapons are checking the door. The walled city is also surrounded by a patchwork of wooden planks, barbed wire, and oil barrels, barely surrounding the area where the walled city is located. In addition, there are some high shelves with automatic turrets for defense against gray fog monsters, because they rely directly on crossfire coverage. These automatic turrets can cover a larger area with fewer numbers, ensuring the safety of the walled city. This is the most stable environment in the outer city, second only to the family area of the security team. Many people in the outer city may have a lifelong goal of trying to move to the walled city, and only a few can do this. The walled city has a radio station, a mission hall, and partner missions can also be received. Moreover, this walled city has an outer city skill gym recommended by Uncle Tiger. Tao Yu's main purpose this time was to sell things. After getting the startup capital, he began to prepare to use his free learning privileges. Since you can learn 2 skills for free, you have to pick the expensive one. It's a pity that there are no breathing methods other than basic breathing method to learn in the outer city. A few people have mastered this breathing method or similar abilities that can increase the upper limit of the human body, and it is not spread to others. Even if someone is really willing to teach for a fee, the cost is probably not as good as me deifying the breathing method again. If he could get that kind of thing for free, of course Tao Yu would want it, but with his own talent, he wasn't that eager. Learning some skills that can be learned, and then taking advantage of the first cheaper opportunity to deify is the most cost-effective option. Just as Tao Yu was thinking about it, it was his turn in the team. After he took out a copy of the partner certificate and showed it, he was quickly put in without any difficulty or questioning. Even if you are just a junior partner, you must have at least a level 5 basic skill. This already has a good status in the outer city. Besides, Tao Yu looks so young, no one will look for trouble. Although the oil drums and barbed wire fences outside of Hound City walled city look very rustic, the internal environment is much cleaner than that in the outer city. At least you won't see Ollie marking these things on the road. The buildings inside are also quite dense, somewhat similar to the style of a refugee camp. The rows of buildings reveal narrow streets and alleys, but because there are no vehicles, they can still pass normally. it's just the complex structure that makes this not-so-vast city look like a maze. It's normal for people who come in for the first time to get lost. Tao Yu has lived here for 18 years after all, and it is still the closest city to home, so he is quite familiar with it. When he was selling things, he didn't choose to set up a stall or ask around for prices. Instead, he went straight to the Xinyao recycling station, which was nominally a company store. This can save a lot of trouble and energy. There are not many people in the outer city who can spend so much money to buy skills in one go. Compared to the refugee camp next to it, this Xinyao recycling station is barely a normal 3-story wooden building. Because Tao Yu arrived early, it seems that it has just opened its doors and there are not many customers. After all, most people from outside the city are budget conscious and would not choose to come here if they could make more money by selling. "Hey, is this a guest?" "What's the matter?" that the beardless man, who looked to be in his 30s and was much cleaner and cheerful than ordinary outsiders, also smiled when he saw Tao Yu come in. Judging from the clothes that are more elegant than ordinary people from outside the city, this must be the store manager. He probably came to the door to get some fresh air in the morning. Compared with the company employees in the black house, the store manager seems more like a businessman, who makes money by being friendly. Selling a set of skills. From the new development area, one set has 2 skills. Tao Yu went straight to the point and was not prepared to say anything polite to the other party. No matter how nice the other person's smile is or how nice his attitude is, he still wants to make money for himself. A complete set of skills. I'm lucky today. It's a good start. The store manager looked a little surprised. It was rare for outer city to receive a complete set of skills. They were usually scattered wish items, and they had to sort and combine them themselves. The most rare thing is that the other party said it came from the new development area. This means that this skill is probably not one that is common in daily life. Maybe the skill itself is very common, but it is most likely that it can be used by people who have never learned it before, and the value will definitely be higher than normal. And since the other party pointed out this point when he opened his mouth, he couldn't deceive the other party on this point, so the store manager still made a gesture of invitation. "Guest, come with me. Let's go to the private room, Hua, and serve tea." The store manager walked in front and asked the clerk to serve tea. The clerk called Hua has the traditional painting style of people from outside the city. Although she is a woman, she looks a bit powerful. With a style like I am farming in Kung Fu, it can be seen that the work and food here are pretty good. His hands and feet were also very nimble. As soon as Tao Yu sat down, tea was served. However, neither Tao Yu nor the store manager drank tea first, and the store manager took the initiative to speak. "The first batch came back yesterday, and the customers came here so early today. They must know that few people in the outer city can afford this kind of skill, and they can't pay a high price even if they bite the bullet. Of course, otherwise I wouldn't have approached you. You are directly affiliated with the company and have channels in the inner city. 5,000 units are willing to take it away. If you find the person you want in the inner city, you can make thousands by reselling it." Tao Yu knew that the other party wanted to lower the price, so he simply quoted a relatively high price to silence the other party. Tao Yu has already discussed this skill with Uncle Hu. Because he comes from the newly developed area, the 2 skills, Latent Python, and Explosion Python, should interest some people with related talents in the inner city. With the pockets and financial resources of inner city residents, if you encounter something that really suits your needs, you can probably sell it for RMB 10,000. But that being said, if this skill is sold in the outer city, it will cost up to 3,000 units of willingness, because most people in the outer city cannot be like the people in the inner city and have already begun to icing on the cake. For people from outside the city, there is no difference between the skills in this newly developed area and the ordinary skills produced near their own gathering place. And Tao Yu himself had no channels to sell to the inner city, not even Uncle Hu. Therefore, the price difference must be earned by Xinyao Company. 5,000 is already an exaggerated price, and Tao Yu's bottom line is 3,005. Can the guest allow me to identify it conveniently? That the store manager pondered for a moment, but did not react at all because of Tao Yu's quotation. "Okay, I have a few extra coins in this set." Tao Yu took a snake tooth from his backpack and handed it over. Huh, it's not like I have to absorb it. Those who work in our industry must master some skills. The store manager laughed, wrapped the snake tooth in a piece of cloth, and then placed it directly on the table. He stretched out his fingers and moved along the lines on the snake tooth bit by bit. After a moment, he nodded and said, "There are indeed two skills, but they are relatively common. One should be latent, and the other is muscle explosion, and it may have side effects." Tao Yu was also a little surprised when he roughly judged the content of the message based on just one snake tooth and without absorbing it. Sure enough, being able to hold on to the company's thighs is not a simple thing. Tao Yu himself had to absorb one before he could make a judgment. "Let's do this. 5,000, the store will take it. The price is a bit high, just treat it as a friend." The store manager pondered for a moment and readily agreed to Tao Yu's price. Tao Yu even briefly thought that he had made a loss. It can be seen from the company's meat pricing, the price gap between purchase and sale, this is quite dark. This time Tao Yu and Uncle Hu discussed it. It would be good if it was more expensive than ordinary skills. It would save him time in setting up a stall and the price would be a little higher. Generally, the tuition fee for learning a simple skill in a gym is 800 to 1,000, and for some excellent ones it can be 2,000 to 3,000. There is no doubt that if you directly absorb willing items to learn, you will master them faster, but you also have to worry about the problem of contamination, so the price of ordinary skills is generally about 50% more expensive. These two skills are not considered excellent. The normal price is about 3,000 in total. If you pay a premium of 500 to 1,000, you can accept it as a new gathering place. However, Tao Yu's initial high price was immediately accepted by the other party, which really caught him off guard. He couldn't even control his expression. "Brother, do you think I'm too talkative?" That the store manager glanced at Tao Yu with a smile. "As I said before, I just want to make friends. There must be a lot of good things in the new development area. They are rare in a short time. I hope you can remember to find me first next time you have good things." He brought back a complete set of skills on his first trip to the new development area. He is an outsider. No matter what the reason is, it is worth his investment. No matter whether it is talent, mind, or even pure luck, he doesn't mind selling it well. Anyway, if you sell it to the inner city, you can make a few thousand yuan. If you make 1,000 less, it is also the company's profit. It is better to use it to exchange for future performance. Chapter 32, Getting Rich Suddenly. You are listening at NovelsReturning. As expected, only when people have value can they be used. After leaving the Xingyao recycling station, Tao Yu once again felt the same as in a black house before. "I'm not afraid of being used by others, but I'm afraid of not even having value to use. Does the store manager Lu Hong hit it off with me at first sight? No, he is optimistic about my potential, a kind of expectation and confidence. 15,000 units of willpower. This is the number of willpower Tao Yu has at this time. A set of skills is 5,000, but the big one is the blood orchid that is overpriced by more than 20 times. When Tao Yu took out the blood orchid, he obviously felt the other party's shortness of breath. In the end, he was able to take out 10,000 willpower. In addition to the blood orchid itself, it also came with information about the general environment of the area where the blood orchid grows. In fact, Tao Yu knows more about the blood orchid, such as this flower will bloom only once every many years, but he did not give an answer that exceeded his own cognition. Perhaps more detailed information can also be sold for money, but I am afraid I will not be able to spend it if I have the life to sell it. This thing is not something that Tao Yu can think about for the time being. What he needs now is resources and time to grow. Even throwing out some simple information about the blood orchid is what Tao Yu originally wanted to do. After all, Li Lu also got the blood orchid. If he teamed up with some big shots and wanted to occupy the canyon for a long time, then I, who also knew the news and secrets, would be an obstacle. In this case, it is better to sell it directly as a gift for the transaction. No matter how high the price and profit are, I can't hold it for the time being. 15,000 is a bit of a limit. You still have to have strength. For eating dozens of blood orchids, Tao Yu has nothing to feel bad about. It doesn't matter if 5 flowers come out, but if he really takes out 50 flowers, it's hard to say whether he can leave. Seeing that Lu Hong, the store manager, is making money by being friendly, but obviously there is no way to test human nature. Tao Yu even said bluntly that he was afraid of being remembered, so he ate most of the flowers himself, focusing on safety first. 15,000 units of willpower. Tao Yu has never been so rich, even his whole family has never had such a huge sum of money. First, spend more than 300 units of willpower to complete the second skill of the alien that is about to take shape, in an instant. With the passing of willpower, Tao Yu felt that his muscle contours had slightly adjusted, and his whole body felt a tingling sensation like an electric shock, as if he was adapting to this skill, and his passive power was slightly improved. Ambush alien. When attacking the enemy before it is aware of it, you can always find the most deadly area and increase explosive power, a very good skill. It can increase nerve reaction during ambush and form a hunting instinct. You can reflexively attack the appropriate attack without thinking. Relatively speaking, the two skills of the alien are much better than the giant python. Without hesitation, a sum of about 200 units of willpower, which is also more expensive than the breathing method, is directly injected. Ambush modified. Walk with the shadow. The first close attack when showing can gather all the shadow power when lurking. Good guy. It is directly linked with two lurking skills. Because it was a direct injection of consciousness, Tao Yu also instantly grasped the context of this skill. Both of his stealth skills can allow him to hide in the shadows, and they can also be superimposed. However, the mental energy consumed by maintaining stealth in the middle and the physical energy consumed by high-speed movement during stealth are all consumed, but now all his consumption will be transformed into the continuously accumulated and superimposed shadow power. The longer he lasts and the farther he runs, the more shadow power will be gathered, and all of this will be released with his first attack. This is awesome. This is a rare way for Tao Yu to enhance the burst without hurting himself in turn. It's a pity that it can only be used in close combat. It would be great if it could be attached to bullets. Although Tao Yu was very happy, he still had some thoughts of getting more. Maybe the next enhancement would be enough. More than 10,000 units of willpower. If Tao Yu saves more, he can once again deify the relatively cheap, basic fighting modified, and perform the first secondary deification. However, Tao Yu has not considered it for the time being. At present, my physical potential has not been fully developed. The upper limit raised by a large number of blood orchids and the improvement of my divine breathing method have not been fully utilized. Considering the consumption of the second divine transformation, it is obvious that the cost performance is still lacking. First learn all the free skills and half-price skills, and then spend all on improving proficiency, and strive to strengthen the comprehensive level before entering the abyss again. It seems that 15,000 willpower is a lot, but when it comes to actual use, it is not even possible to fully develop my existing potential. This is a huge amount of money that my parents can save for at least 15 years without eating or drinking for 5 years. Suppressing some of the throbbing in his heart, Tao Yu also began to walk along the busy streets that were already crowded with people, towards the only gym in the Hound City. Listening to the hawking sounds in his ears and the smell of those life flavors, Tao Yu's steps were also very fast. Came to the gate of the largest courtyard in the city. The outside of the fortress was just a combination of discarded oil drums and barbed wire, but this courtyard was luxuriously fenced off with uniform stones to form a large area. From outside, one could faintly hear the uniform shouts of he and he from inside, and it was obvious that the students inside had already started practicing. Wanlu Gym is the only gym in the Hound City walled city, and it is also one of the best gyms in the outer city. The 5 martial arts at the bottom of the box are tiger, crane, python, bear, and ape. The tuition for each one is as high as 5,000 yuan, and the tuition is not guaranteed. In addition to firearms shooting, other skills can be taught such as fighting, weapons, basic breathing techniques, footwork, climbing, etc. There are also separate force-generating techniques similar to explosion. Prices also vary from high to low, but the cheapest one also requires 800 units of willingness. It can be said that people from outside the city who can spend all their money to study here are at least well off, or have good family conditions, but there are also people who take skills loans. In the past, as long as you had combat talent, you could come here for a skill loan, with annualized interest rates and installments with compound interest. This is definitely a conscientious interest rate in the outer city. for the gym, even if a student dies in the Abyss mission and cannot afford to pay back, the loss is just a little bit of teaching energy, which is completely acceptable. This greatly increases the number of target groups who can afford it. Already possessing the combat talent, there is a high probability that he has arrived at the company gathering place. The survival rate is much higher than the one on the day of awakening. Having the combat talent can also ensure that the opponent has the ability to afford it, making a steady profit. Similarly, some combat talent owners who have poor family conditions and urgently need some activation skills will choose to borrow money to get through the difficult initial period. The registration area for the dojo is outside the wall and is completely open air. There was a registration office sign, an old wooden table, and a young man wearing gray dojo uniform sitting behind it. Compared to the relatively deserted registration office when Tao Yu passed by before, this time Tao Yu also found that there was also a queue here, and at a glance, many of the faces are somewhat impressive. Several of them were survivors this time. With Tao Yu's dynamic vision, it was not easy to forget them. They're all here for free, but that's right. The 5,000 skill learning fee should be the most expensive in the outer city. Tao Yu thought about it, whether it was a half-price package, a skill loan or a free skill quota, there seemed to be nothing wrong with using it on the most expensive skill. Don't you think so too? However, looking at the constipated expression on the face of the young man who registered at the registration desk, Tao Yu also knew that he might not be very willing to Wanlu Gym itself. It's possible that the company is using low prices or even free prostitution to pressure them into teaching. Chapter 33, Blood Profit. You are listening at NovelsReturning. From the new development area. Have you finished the talent test? Is it a combat talent? Fill out the form yourself. Behind the desk at the registration desk, a young man wearing the uniform gray training uniform of the gymnasium, with short hair and a dark scar on his cheek looked at Tao Yu impatiently and pointed at the form next to him. This is already the 7th one today, a bunch of free prostitutes. There are even people who are not talented in fighting, and they take advantage of the half-price privilege and the condition of being allowed a skill loan. They are really convinced. Skills are expensive, and they are not so easy to learn. Let me remind you, we don't care whether you learn it or not. The entry threshold for skills is very high. If you want to learn the bottom-of-the-box boxing skills in our gym, if you don't have good talent, you won't be able to reach level 4 in basic fighting. It's hard to do. This reminder made Tao Yu a little surprised. The skills here in the outer city are open to teaching, and it is definitely a skill that can be learned, but if the talent is not good, the entry threshold is really not low at level 4. Tao Yu's father has the blessing of Eagle Eye, but he can only keep the basic shooting at this level. If he reaches LV5, he will enter the marginal period, causing the maintenance cost to skyrocket. This is an old man who has been struggling for decades and raised 8 children. His ability cannot be considered weak. I have a fighting talent and have been certified. Tao Yu took out his partner certificate again, which made the other party stunned for a moment, and then switched to a smiling face. Without looking at it, he stood up and led Tao Yu in. Hey, brother, don't mind. I was annoyed by that group of people before. I'm in a bad mood. Don't take it to heart. Let's go. I'll take you to my senior brother. Do you want to choose boxing? Can you get a partnership? As a human being, can I have 2 free permissions? There were 2 people behind Tao Yu, but this guy just ignored them. The 2 people behind him didn't even think about it, and just stayed there and waited. There are 2 free permissions, and I'm going to use them here at half price. Brother, what I said before is not entirely scary. The core abilities of our gym are still quite difficult. The registered student didn't ask for details, but he emphasized it again. Thanks for the reminder. Tao Yu nodded. He was still a little confident in this aspect. First of all, the physical fitness must be up to standard. There are definitely not many people in the outer city with level 4 basic fighting skills who can surpass me in physical fitness. Although my basic combat modification is only at level 2, it will definitely be stronger than level 4 in all aspects after deification. Moreover, although I am not particularly talented in physical aspects, the dynamic vision brought by bullet time, allows me to observe and record details quite well. If someone can learn it, then there is a high probability that I can do it. Perhaps the later investment cost will be more than that of students with physical talent, but at least it has an absolute advantage for entry-level students. In this way, Tao Yu followed the student to a corner of the gym compound. There are several wooden buildings in the gym compound, but most students practice in the open air on the square. The ground is compacted with cinders and broken soil, which looks a bit bumpy. There are also some wooden stakes, stone locks, weapon racks and other auxiliary training tools nearby. Although the environment seems a bit deceptive, it is actually pretty good for the outer city. No wonder the gym uniform is gray in color and resistant to stains. At this time, there were 7 or 8 people in front of Tao Yu. One of them was wearing the same gym uniform, while the others were dressed in different clothes, which seemed a little out of place. Tao Yu also saw Zhang Wei's figure. This guy is endurance, D+, so he does qualify for a free quota. Although he is still so thin and a little dirty, his expression seems to be much more confident. Tao Yu was led over here, and everyone looked at this treatment that was not available before. Zhang Wei also stared at Tao Yu when he saw it, and then took the initiative to say hello with a smile and nod. "Brother Tao, come and choose this side too." He knew that Tao Yu had B-level, dynamic vision, and it was normal for him to be led here because of his talent, but this was a place to learn boxing, and he felt that his body-side combat talent, endurance, should give him an advantage. In fact, Zhang Wei also knew in his heart that because of Wei Noah's attitude, his change might have left a bad impression on him. It was just forced by circumstances. Although he felt a little regretful, he didn't feel any regrets. If he did it again, he would still make the same choice. Well, let's work together later. No matter what his personality is, Tao Yu still has some recognition of Zhang Wei's abilities. With his hard work, perseverance, and the emergence of fighting talent, he should be able to get along in the outer city, and even have a chance to join the security team. Brother Smith, this one is also here to learn boxing, and he is also a partner. The tall man with light yellow hair and a high hairline at a young age knew that he might have good talent when he saw his junior brother bring someone over directly, but after hearing that it was a partner, he still couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Came here to have sex for free? Did you just complete your first abyss exploration yesterday? Just become a partner? The talent is probably at least a B-level or above ordinary combat talent, which is better than myself. Okay, we will definitely follow the company's requirements, but we have to say ugly things first. I will teach with my heart, but whether you can learn it really depends on you. Smith nodded to Tao Yu as a greeting, and the scar-faced junior brother who brought him and explained to Tao Yu in a low voice. Senior brother Smith is a veteran of the gym, and all 5 of his martial arts are at level 3. The key is that he has reached this level in each of his martial arts. The gym owners all said that as long as he can push all 5 martial arts to level 4, he can try to master them and hold the energy and blood. Hearing this, Tao Yu was also moved in her heart, and then she also lowered her voice and asked. Senior brother, there have been rumors that the gym has an advanced breathing method. I wonder if it is true. Does it cooperate with boxing? Well, it is true, but this must not be spread to the outside world. Only true disciples have the opportunity. Captain Sichuan of the security team even wanted to ask the owner to accept his son, but he didn't agree. This is not a secret. Tao Yu just asked and would not let it go if given the opportunity, but that does not mean that he must learn it. My name is Yi Wei. If you have anything you don't understand, you can ask me. I'm still waiting for you outside, so go ahead. Junior brother Scarface brought Tao Yu over. He had neglected him a little before. No matter if he was petty or not, he wanted to comfort him first. Now that he has done enough, he naturally has to go back to his workstation. This can be used to deduct tuition fees, but not everyone can. Get it? Okay, are everyone here already? Smith glanced at it. There seem to be 2 more, so I'll ask them to come over. Senior brother, you can start first. Scarface junior brother quickened his pace and waved his hand at the same time. Smith really had no intention of waiting for anyone. I know the reason why you chose this place is just because the skills and tuition are expensive, but there is a reason why it is expensive. The 5 martial arts in the gym are indeed the top skills that can be learned in the outer city. And if you learn all 5 sects, you still have a chance to integrate them, seize the energy and blood, and increase the upper limit of the human body. The usual limit for people from outside the city is the upper limit of the ordinary human body. This can increase the upper limit of the human body, and the description alone is enough to inspire people. Some people showed excited expressions, knowing that they made the right choice, but some people were worried. They had to learn all 5 boxing techniques to have a chance, but they didn't have the money to learn the later ones. Smith seemed to notice some people's concerns and chuckled. Actually, you don't need to think about how to make money to study further. If you can specialize in a boxing technique, the gym will have a job that can deduct the tuition. The key is to learn a boxing technique first. Getting started is difficult. As he finished speaking, he immediately lowered his waist and locked his horse, and then performed a set of boxing techniques on the spot. This set of punches he performed was very slow and looked quite awkward, as if it had no lethality at all, but as Tao Yu, who has extremely strong dynamic vision, he could tell the clue based on the beating of some of the opponent's muscles and the pulling of his movements. This should be a practice technique, but I don't know what it has to do with the boxing skills learned. Aren't there 5? You should be allowed to choose first, right? Tao Yu stared attentively, taking note of every move. Others also watched with wide eyes. Even the 2 students who ran up behind and didn't hear the beginning of the lecture didn't have time to ask anything. Some students have even started to try to practice along with it. After finishing this set of punches for about a quarter of an hour, Smith slowly exhaled and completed the closing. You may be wondering what 5-door boxing technique I should teach first. Smith had a half-smiling expression on his face. Now I can tell you that the set just now is the prerequisite for all 5 boxing techniques, Wanlu Zhuanggong. As if he knew what the students were worried about, he waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, this is a skill that is given away for free when learning every boxing skill. There is no additional tuition fee. It will be streamlined so that you can quickly get started and invest in willing power acceleration. This skill reaches level 2, so learning boxing skills will be easier." When everyone heaved a sigh of relief, it was Smith who raised the corner of his mouth slightly. However, precisely because this skill is taught, no matter whether the subsequent boxing skills can be learned or not, there will be no return. If you have talent and ability, you can learn 2 skills in one course. If you are not talented enough, you can only learn the introductory skills. However, Tao Yu's eyes lit up when he was next to him. This skill is obviously an excellent movement for exercising various muscles. If the skill is truly developed and deified, it will be equivalent to another whoring in vain, earning blood. Chapter 34 Getting Started. You are listening at NovelsReturning. I will give you small classes for 3 days. If you don't understand anything during these 3 days, feel free to ask me, but I will only answer repeated questions once. After 3 days, whether you are beginners in Zhuanggong or not, you will go directly to the big class to practice together. Until the skills are introduced. Smith's expression was very cold, which made everyone feel nervous. A few people who were not talented in combat even felt a little regretful. They didn't have free places, they got half-price loans. I originally wanted to give it a try, but it seems it's not that simple. It's not too late to regret now. Do you want to quit? Swish swish. 3 students raised their hands directly, and a 4th person raised his hand a moment later. They are all students with non-combat talents. Originally, after adding 2 people, there were 9, but now it is almost halved. Okay, you can leave now. It's time to understand the current situation. Smith wasn't mocking anything. It was good to be able to stop the loss in time. He looked at the remaining 5 people and continued. I know that you all should have fighting talents, and there is one who has a good talent, but whether you can match it depends on you. Let's start directly today. Follow my previous moves and perform as much as you can. As his voice fell, the 5 of them also separated from each other, standing on the cinder training ground and began to recall their previous actions. but how can ordinary people's memories remember a whole set of boxing techniques that can last for a quarter of an hour? It is difficult to remember all the simple repetitive movements of radio gymnastics. If you don't dismantle it step by step, this will be a rollover scene. There was even a person who fell down because many of those movements were weird and violated the human body's strength. These did not exceed Smith's expectations, so he just looked at it with a smile, but soon his expression hardened. He stared at Tao Yu and frowned. Although Tao Yu cannot be said to be a perfect replica, he relied on all the movements recorded by his dynamic vision, combined with his physical fitness that slightly exceeds the limit of the human body, and his level of basic combat modification, LV2. But he is the only person on the scene who can fight like this. That's what happened. Not to mention how the fight went, but it continued smoothly. After the other students had stopped, Tao Yu finished the fight with bumps and bumps along the way, and even made a decent closing move. Tao Yu was originally able to sense qi and blood because of his deified breathing method. After this set of movements, he unexpectedly found that he could provide side auxiliary bonuses. It's obviously not up to standard, but it already makes my body feel a little numb, and my whole body is soaked with sweat. Because of the one permanent certificate, his body should have improved slightly. Although it was not much, Tao Yu also felt very excited. This is something that complements breathing techniques. What is your talent? Smith looked at Tao Yu after finishing the beating with complicated eyes. A-level, dynamic vision. It was originally meant to be shown to others, so of course Tao Yu would not hide it. A-level? It's actually A-level, no wonder. Good guy. Several other students who had the same mixed feelings and even some jealousy suddenly felt balanced. A-level talent should be like this. Zhang Wei also sighed in his heart at this time. He originally thought that his physical talent should be more advantageous, but now it seems that there is really no comparison. So what if the physical talent is not as good as mine? Level A, dynamic vision, can memorize all movements in an instant. And his physical fitness is much better than mine. It is obvious that he is the owner of his physical talent. Dynamic vision. No wonder, your physical fitness is also quite good. I'm afraid it's no worse than mine. The basic breathing technique and basic fighting levels should be both high. You've put a lot of effort into it, right? Smith was a little emotional. This is an absolute newcomer who has just completed his awakening. I've only been to the abyss once to achieve this level. There are only a few people from outside the city who can make such a big deal, maybe because the opponent's A-level talent has received some investment, or because of the conditions for joining certain forces, but he couldn't care about this, so he said directly without waiting for Tao Yu's reply. If you have the willpower, this skill is actually easy to learn. It looks like you can get started today. I will correct you, and then try to use the willpower to raise it to LV2. After 3 days, they will go to the big class, and I will teach you boxing skills. At this he paused. This skill is a basic ability. It doesn't cost much to accelerate your willpower. Don't worry. Compared with before, although Smith's mood was a bit complicated, on the surface he was more enthusiastic and continued to tell Tao Yu. But practicing is very physically demanding. If you want to get started quickly, you have to take supplements. The canteen of the Taoist temple sells medicinal food. A bowl of Qi Bu Qi decoction costs 10 units of willing power. It is a welfare price of the Taoist temple and cannot be bought outside. 0.10 units of willingness is the daily income of Tao Yu's parents. Just buying a bowl of qi-boosting soup will probably consume many bowls a day, which is actually a lot of money. Fortunately, Tao Yusin made a lot of money, so he could afford it. When he was practicing the basic breathing method in the abyss, he could actually feel that even the nutrition of meat could not keep up with his digestion speed. It's exhausting to practice all the time. That kind of qi-boosting soup should be similar to the recovery effect of eating raw blood orchid, supplementing more nutrients with a smaller amount that is easier to absorb. After hearing this, Tao Yu also humbly asked Smith for advice. Senior brother, I wonder if the gym has any skills to improve digestion. You are a little naughty. If you have the ability to improve digestion and eat more diligently, that would be enough, but in fact you won't save much. You have to spend money to eat meat. Smith immediately understood what Tao Yu meant, but then explained. There is a class in the gym called tin swallowing technique, which helps with food and promotes digestion. However, although the learning fee for this class is only 1,000, it is best to have a core boxing skill of level 3 before mastering it, otherwise you will not even be able to control your stomach. Control is difficult to learn. Because of Tao Yu's talent, Smith was obviously much kinder. Furthermore, the original purpose of this skill is to meet the needs of stronger consumption. It is usually combined with the consumption of Qi Bu Qi decoction. It is a bit early to consider this during the Zhuang Kung Fu stage. Thank you, senior brother, I understand. Tao Yu nodded, just have it. All your various deification skills will greatly increase your physical or mental consumption. Relying on the recovery effect of one permanent certificate to supplement your energy is the most cost-effective. Tao Yu Qianqian tried to replenish the willpower with more than a dozen points of willpower. The speed was really fast. Both recovery and healing were far faster than eating. However, the cost-effectiveness was extremely low. The current physical fitness is probably a few hundred points just to restore physical strength. The stronger the physical fitness, the greater the recovery cost, let alone healing. It can only be used for emergencies and cannot be used on a regular basis. Therefore, for Tao Yu himself, the priority of learning this digestive skill is higher than the advanced breathing method that is secretly taught in this dojo, but the prerequisite for all this is to master the boxing technique first. Tao Yu slowly exhaled, then cupped her hands to Smith. Senior brother, please correct me. Okay, let's also save time. Come and watch together. I will explain it when I guide junior brother Tao Yu. Remember it all. I don't want to make repeated mistakes. As Smith finished speaking, he signaled Tao Yu to start, directly using Tao Yu as the general teacher of teaching. Although it looks standard, there are still many things that are not in place. This is a pile of skills, not a fighting style. Don't consider speed and power at all. The purpose is to train every muscle. Some movements even have to be slowed down. As Smith spoke, he kept patting Tao Yu's body to correct some flaws. From time to time, there would be creaking sounds of bones and joints, and Tao Yu could also feel that every part of his body was burning, but with the cooperation of qi and blood, the effect this time is at least several times that of the first one. After the second set, Tao Yu was very tired and his clothes were all soaked, but he did not rest. I am not afraid of losing my body through training. It's only right to take advantage of the feeling and work hard. Junior brother, you should take a rest and don't rush for success. Although your physical fitness is good, it is not a physical talent after all. Smith couldn't help but frown slightly when he heard that Tao Yu was coming. It seems like only 2 sets, but the load on the body is not light. Brother, I am sensible. I took a lot of special herbs in the abyss. The potency of the medicine may not be digested yet, and my whole body is warm. Tao Yu accidentally revealed the information that she had finished eating the blood orchid again without any care. This made Zhang Wei look a little confused. What kind of herbal medicine? At the beginning, he did remember that the other party had a lot of red flowers. Is that kind of thing? This gave Zhang Wei some thoughts. Okay, just count it yourself, do it one last time, and then take a rest. The gym has a special blood-activating ointment that costs 20 vows per jar, and the price is internal. After finishing speaking, Smith signaled Tao Yu to start again, and he also admired the other party's perseverance in his heart. Let's not talk about whether the body can hold it or not. The soreness that come on as soon as I start using it are quite uncomfortable. Tao Yu's persistence also paid off. He had memorized the movements clearly and had developed a good feeling. After receiving personal correction from Smith for the 3rd time, he had a vague understanding in his heart. Then the Wanlu Zhuang Gong, LV1 skill light group appeared, and the skill was introduced. Chapter 36, Tailing. You are listening at NovelsReturning. Okay, are you ready to learn boxing? Tao Yu ran up to Smith when the teaching in the gym was about to end, leaving the latter confused. He was thinking about asking Tao Yu to spend 3 days to speed up the familiarity. How much willpower did you use? So rich? Willing force acceleration is a good thing, but the faster the acceleration, the lower the cost performance. I want to learn all 5 boxing techniques, and then go to the abyss to improve my life-saving ability as much as possible. Tao Yu said it so bluntly that Smith couldn't help but be slightly startled, and then sighed. I know that you have learned Zhuang Gong 3 times, and your talent is really high. But since the 5 boxing techniques have been streamlined into one entry-level skill before, you can know how difficult this boxing technique is. With your talent, you can learn 1 or 2 boxing techniques a month. It should still be okay, woman is too forced. I want to try. Tao Yu said insistently. He knew that Smith had good intentions, because junior brother Scarface had said before that at least all 5 boxing techniques must reach level 4 before he could try to fuse with each other to capture the energy and blood. Even if I really learn all 5 boxing techniques in a hurry, the price-performance ratio is actually not as great as the improvement brought by specializing in one boxing technique. This kind of ability even requires special simplification of the current position of a skill, and the consumption of willing force acceleration will inevitably be more, but Tao Yu himself has the ability to become deified. No matter what, he first gets started and develops skills. Okay, let me give you a try first. You will change yourself by then. It's already late today. Let's start tomorrow. Okay, thank you, Brother Smith. Zhang Wei and others who were also exhausted next to him were also full of envy at this time. They don't have money to eat chi-tonifying soup, it's too luxurious, and they are very tired now. As a result, not only did he already get started with Zhuang Kung Fu, but he also accelerated the use of Chi Bu Chi decoction, and now he was about to learn boxing. The gap is too big. If you are from the inner city, it is not surprising that you will surpass the peak of the outer city at the beginning. The massive accumulation is there, and you can smash it out with money, but here are people from other cities, so the contrast is really big. The gym is still very popular. Free seats are provided and clothes are given out. Tao Yu looked at the gray training uniform in his hand and sighed inwardly. The material is very rough and may feel uncomfortable if it is worn close to the body. It is designed to be durable, but even so, this is still the best clothes Tao Yu has ever owned. God knows how uncomfortable the fabric of my underwear has been over the past 18 years. When registering, they wrote down their height and weight, and when they went home, each of them was given a set, which was very efficient, but if you want the second set, you have to spend your own money, which is also 10 units of willingness. The cost of this dojo is really high for an outer city, but in fact the price/performance ratio of each item is really good. This is true for both chi-tonifying decoctions and ointments. Tao Yu also bought 2 cans of ointment. Applying this ointment does have the effect of activating blood circulation, and it can also be used during practice. The deified auxiliary skills also allowed Tao Yu to have a basic understanding of the ointment. I don't know what the ingredients are, but if I can learn pharmaceutical skills to make money, it will definitely taste delicious. Because of the deification of auxiliary skills, Tao Yu has an outline for chi-tonifying soups and ointments. Buki soup should be a kind of medicinal porridge, which is made from the viscera, herbs and staple food of a certain creature in a certain proportion. It may be a willing creature raised in captivity in a company gathering place. The ointment should also be made similar to horse ointment, and it is probably some kind of willing creature the company gathering place has developed to this day. Various supporting systems are very mature, and it is not surprising that there are various industries, but here at the new gathering place, I don't know what to do. Maybe you can raise aliens. Tao Yu exudes thinking, not to mention the rapid reproduction of alien parasitic ordinary organisms, which is quite suitable for captivity. Although excluding the value of skills, each head has 20 units of willpower, but it cannot support the large number. However, it can be foreseen that even if the number of aliens is really raised and the number of aliens increases, the company will definitely control the circulation of skills, and would rather directly convert the excess directly into pure willpower than to lower its own price. There is also Blood Orchid. Lilu probably has channels to find people. I also sold it to Manager Lu. When it stabilizes, he will use the valley as a breeding ground. Although there is a high probability that blood orchids cannot be artificially cultivated and can only be harvested regularly, and the intervals between years are still very long, after all, the effect is here. Even if the habits of blood orchids are tested, they will not give up, Tao Yu thought happily as she left the walled city and turned into an alley. It is said to be an alley, but it is actually two patchwork buildings built outside the walled city, trying to use the high towers and turrets of the walled city to protect them. The ground is overflowing with sewage. As soon as he entered the alley, Tao Yu suddenly accelerated and ran, shuttling between the messy houses in the outer city. He suddenly appeared faster than Bolt, causing some people who happened to pass by to exclaim. You're going to die, kick all the shit in my face, you. What are you doing? I want to hit someone to death. The outer city was already dirty and messy, so Tao Yu immediately aroused complaints after running away. If Tao Yu wasn't too fast and obviously not easy to mess with, I'm afraid there would be people who would take action. There are some basic rules and regulations in the outer city, but even if it is not a big deal, the security team will not care about it. The order in many areas is even dominated by gangs. After Tao Yu ran away like crazy, the two figures who had been at the gate of the fortress quickly followed him. Although they were not as fast as Tao Yu, they were not much slower. They were left behind by Tao Yu at the beginning. They started a beat slower and were not as fast as him. After chasing him for a while and finding that he had lost him, they spat viciously. Damn, running so fast. It seems that he was not talking nonsense when he said he ate all those flowers. It is indeed the only way to explain it. The two were dressed like ordinary people from the outer city, but their speed was not weak. They glared at the people around them with bad eyes. In order to avoid being shot, they quickly left the place, but after the two left, Tao Yu slowly emerged in the shadow of an alley behind them, looking at the backs of the two with a deep look in his eyes. Sure enough, I didn't think too much. He came to my door the next day. Are you so anxious? The next day, he came to the Hound Fortress early in the morning, and then sold things and learned skills. These two people stayed outside the fortress and didn't come in, so they were probably carrying weapons. No matter which side they belonged to, they must be related to the blood orchid. There was a small probability that they belonged to Manager Lu, but the greater probability was that they belonged to Li Lu, or someone Li Lu contacted. However, their surveillance was not hidden in front of his dynamic vision. The look in his eyes and the slight changes in his facial expressions were too obvious in Tao Yu's eyes. It's not the security team, which is much better than the worst case. Tao Yu pondered in his heart, if the power was really strong enough to crush them head-on and the security team would ride on his face in broad daylight, then if Tao Yu didn't want to be exiled to the gray fog, he could only cooperate obediently, be honest and be good, and give whatever he wanted. It's okay to live. It's okay to be a dog with humiliation. But using this surveillance method also indirectly shows that it's not so exaggerated. Maybe it's also considering the relationship with Uncle Hu, or maybe Li Li's reach is limited. Tao Yu even suspected that they didn't even know that he had given the information to the recycling station. Each one is still a little unsafe. They should also give free information to the gym. They still haven't considered it thoroughly enough. I am still young now, and Uncle Tiger's legs are not thick enough. I can only borrow as much as possible. Tao Yu doesn't think he is a smart person, but he has seen pigs run even if he hasn't eaten pork. Many principles under network informationization are actually very simple. When individual strength is insufficient, we should try to transfer the interests as much as possible. If one recycling station is not enough, then the gym should also be included. After all, the free information is given for free and can be sold well. Looking up at the sky, although it has always been gray, it is obviously getting darker. It is almost night, and Tao Yu's footsteps are also a few steps faster. I hope there will be no surprise attack at night. The remaining more than 10,000 wishes are useful, so it is better not to waste them on recovery. Chapter 37, Garbage Mountain. You are listening at NovelsReturning. I'm back. Tao Yu did not choose to rely on his stealth skills to track him backwards. There were many people during the day, and he had to keep hiding in the shadows. It would take too long and consume him more than he could bear. Tao Yu's main purpose now is to delay as much time as possible so that he can spread the news as much as possible, and then the problem will naturally be solved. He has his own talent and potential, and he doesn't want to go head-on when he's weak. due to the influence of the world he lived in his previous life, Tao Yu still likes to value harmony. It was an accident to kill Joseph. This guy actually used something he hated to trick him into using it. The food is on the table, and my parents have returned to the abyss. Third sister-in-law Lily stretched out her hand and wiped it on her apron. Has the stone come back? Is there nothing going on today? Tao Yu asked casually with an indifferent expression. I came back at noon and said I would stay at a friend's house that night. Lily sighed again. She spent the most time taking care of her family on weekdays. Tao sure stayed up at night at a young age and was always worried. It's okay, you're such an adult, boys won't suffer. Tao Yu saw her sister-in-law's expression and knew that she was not harassing the family for the time being. As for my brother, Tao Yu really has nothing to worry about. This is how this guy has always been, although he ate a lot of chi-boosting soup in the gym, seeing a bowl of fried bacon with pickles and white rice on the table made Tao Yu touch his belly again. The consumption of latent use before has to be replenished. My parents said that you should try your best to cook meat at home. They will also look for some at the gathering place and bring them back. Tao Yu did not refuse this kind of parental concern. Meat in the modern world is very expensive, but it is quite easy to get it in the abyss gathering place. However, it is not convenient to carry it every time. Sometimes I ask my colleagues who come back to bring something and deliver messages. After Tao Yu finished eating, the sky turned completely dark, because Lao Ba had already said in advance that he would not come back. Li closed the door early and locked the door bolt, then he took the dishes and chopsticks to clean them. Tao Yu went back to his room to recharge his batteries. He wasn't going to sleep tonight, so he had to be careful. At least it should stay like this until the news is completely spread. Tao Yu opened the window of the paper shell a little to reveal a larger gap. Tao Yu stretched out her hand to indicate the size of the window and then retreated to the bed. It feels like I'm back in the abyss spending the night alone. Tao Yu sighed inwardly. As a person who doesn't like fighting and killing, it was really a headache for him to encounter these things. Hope everything goes well. At night, it was dark outside, and there was the faint sound of some autonomous cannons. Tao Yu, who was leaning on the bed with his eyes closed to rest, also opened his eyes at this time. There was really movement outside the house. Why? He stood up helplessly, and the next moment Tao Yu disappeared directly into the shadows, instantly blending into the shadows and stringing out from the window. Escaping into the shadows will not give Tao Yu the ability to pass through walls, but as long as there are enough gaps, he can slide through them like jelly. The perspectives of the modeled shadows around him were constantly switching at high speed, ignoring the collision volume to a certain extent, allowing Tao Yu to make no sound or leave any footprints, far exceeding the speed he could run during the day. In less than 2 seconds, he walked around the back of the house and arrived at the 2 black figures that had just rolled into the farm. The autonomous cannon on the roof can only search for gray fog monsters. It is not an intelligent defense system, so the 2 people ignored it. They looked familiar. They were the same 2 people during the day, but they had changed their equipment. During the day, they all dressed up as ordinary outsiders, looking gray and gray, but this time it was 2 sets of dark special operations uniforms. The tactical pockets were also filled with various things. In each hand was a small submachine gun similar to MP5. The submachine gun also had a silencer. It was obvious that the intruder was evil. Coupled with the night vision goggles on their heads, they also gave the 2 of them a sense of professionalism, which was completely different from the shabby appearance they had when they were stalking them before. If Tao Yu hadn't had extraordinary eyesight, he wouldn't have been able to recognize the 2 of them immediately. Looking at this piece of equipment, Tao Yu's eyes gradually darkened in the shadows. I have already taken a step back. Why should I force myself? The 2 of them looked at each other over the fence of the farm and did not speak. It was obvious that they had planned it in advance. I watched a few tactical gestures being made between the 2 of them, and one of them groped forward and quickly bowed forward. It can be seen that the 2 of them should also have skills similar to lurking, and they make no sound when walking with tactical boots, and it moves quickly. But just when the man in front reached the corner and took out his dagger to push the door bolt open, there was a slight sound of bone cracking behind him. A chill ran down his spine for a moment. He was very familiar with this sound. It was the sound of a broken neck. Without any hesitation, he swung the dagger behind him, and his other hand had already grasped the handle of the gun again. But there was no movement behind him except for the corpses of his fallen companions. He secretly thought that something was wrong. Before he could get a new reaction, a heavy blow to the back of his head made his vision go black and he fell unconscious. Within a few seconds, as soon as the first corpse fell to the ground, Tao Yu had already killed the two of them. After a quick search, Tao Yu found two tactical headsets. After a moment of hesitation, he broke off the microphones and Tao Yu temporarily put them to his ears, but it seemed that this was just for the two of them to communicate, and there was no sound. Then he carried the corpse in one hand and the unconscious one in the other, and went over the guardrail and walked towards the garbage mountain. The night in the outer city was almost dark, with no stars or moon. There were only some light spots on the inner city wall. It was almost pitch dark at Tao Yu's house, but in Tao Yu's eyes, all the details were still clear. The streets in the outer city were still so dirty at night, but there was no one in sight. Except for the occasional coughing from some houses, there was not even the barking of dogs. The sporadic gunshots in the distance were the embellishment of the silent night. Tao Yu walked very fast, and he did not slow down at all while carrying two fully armed adults. At the same time, he was constantly observing the surroundings, worried that there would be other gangs to support him. He deliberately showed up just to see how big their battle was, with bullet time, and lurking, as a backup. Plus enough willpower to spare, Tao Yu had the capital to test, but perhaps it is good news, just like the silent headset. Until Tao Yu walked to the front of the garbage mountain, he did not encounter any new attacks. This kind of force is indeed more than enough to deal with our family. Tao Yu laughed at himself. Sometimes being underestimated is not a bad thing. The dark garbage mountain in front of him was made of all kinds of waste materials, with a more pungent smell than the street. In addition to the garbage and the stench, there are many red dots here, running around in the garbage from time to time, looking for something. Tao Yu's eyesight can easily see that these red dots are the eyes of huge rats. Each rat is as big as a kitten. After Tao Yu came over, many of them stared at him straight, without any fear, and their scarlet eyes were full of cruelty, because the meat of these rats is poisonous and cannot be cooked. It is also one of the few very nourishing animals in the outer city. Tao Yu has heard the ghost story of rats eating people in the garbage mountain since he was a child. After throwing the two people on the ground, Tao Yu leaned over and began to collect the harvest. He took off his bulletproof vest and packed all the scattered equipment. The next moment, Tao Yu held the body with both hands and turned it around in place, and threw it directly to the garbage mountain from a long distance. Squeaked that the rats that had been staring at this side from time to time swarmed up in an instant, piled up on the body, and the sound of leather tearing, chewing, and gnawing bones continued to come, making Tao Yu feel a little sick. Looking down at the fainted person, Tao Yu didn't know if he had controlled his strength well, and didn't know if he was dead or not, but he didn't care so much. He really didn't have much experience in this regard. He turned the other person over casually, and then exerted force with his feet. Crack crack that the limbs were broken one by one, and the unconscious person woke up with a muffled groan, but before he could scream, a hand like an iron clamp had already clamped on his neck, making the guy who had just woken up from the pain and felt dizzy almost black out. Again, Li Xiang, who had just woken up, felt pain all over his body. His head was dizzy, and the huge force on his neck made him breathless. What happened? That's right, my cousin and I were about to catch the kid in the daytime and interrogate him. Then what happened? The previous scenes appeared in my mind intermittently like fragments, and I heard a voice behind me just as I was about to use a dagger to pick the bolt. Turn around, my cousin is dead. Memories flooded into my mind, making Li Xiang alert and his mind clearer. The night vision goggles had been taken off, and it was dark in front of him. Li Xiang could only vaguely see some scarlet red dots in front of him. An extremely unpleasant stench came into his nose, and there was a rustling sound in his ears. This immediately made Li Xiang's heart sink. Even if he couldn't see the outline clearly, he knew where this was, a mountain of garbage. I came here to deal with some of the dirty work I did before. It's over. Chapter 38 Li Family. You are listening at NovelsReturning. Li Xiang felt miserable in his heart, knowing that he would not be able to survive. The other party didn't kill him directly just because he wanted to know some information, and now he doesn't even know who caught him. The night was too dark, and the lack of oxygen made his eyes black. The person who stuck his neck was behind him the whole time, and he could only feel the opponent's great power. Just ask, I just want to be happy. The compressed throat made a slight sound, that's what he said, but only God knows whether he will give an honest answer in the end. Why do you go there at night? What do you all know? Tao Yu asked in a hoarse and low voice. Tao Yu's question made Li Xiang's heart suddenly move. Huh? The other party doesn't know. Thoughts gradually returned to his mind, and Li Xiang also had new thoughts in his mind. Yes, letting the two of them fall without any resistance is not something that boy and his family can do. It's a third-party force. Thinking of the fact that the boy went to the walled city for a day today, was he also recruiting foreign aid? Li Xiang immediately found the best explanation in his heart. This kind of strength is definitely not unknown in the outer city. There's drama. I don't know what that kid said to you, but we also know the secrets he knows. The purpose this time was to take him away and shut him up, but I didn't expect that he had already said it. Intermittent sounds came, making Tao Yu nodded. You know that thing? I know, sir. In fact, we are better partners. The Li family in Nanching, sir, must have heard of it. What can the mud-legged guy say? Why don't we work together? Li family. The deep voice seemed a little afraid. Humph, you lied to me. You guys are from the inner city. How could you possibly find our forces in the outer city if you really want to cooperate? The voice seemed a little angry. Hearing this, Li Xiang was even more delighted. Pure outer city forces. This is great. There is a chance. Sir, don't be angry, what I said is true, because this time the benefits will allow us to return to the inner city, so this time the clan leader plans to develop it himself. So the two people we came to take action are direct descendants. This time the patriarch called back all the important family members who can participate, just to be sure. Real? It's absolutely true. If we really find the connection in the inner city, we won't arrest this kid, and just recruit him directly. After all, a B-level combat talent in the new development area is quite rare now, and it's impossible for this kid to refuse. Incorporation. It can be said that Li Xiang has been quite sincere in order to survive. When Tao Yu heard this, he was really surprised. Why do you do it to yourself? I'm not afraid that I might not be able to suppress it. How could someone with an inner city background worry about this situation? Wouldn't it be nice to just give yourself a sum of money to collect it? Normally, would I still refuse? And the most important thing is that the other party's unintentional words also fully exposed their abilities. B-level talent, although it had only been one day, I had never kept it secret at all, and it was completely above board. This is still the old version of information, and its capabilities are indeed limited. It's been a long time since I sold the information to Xingyao Recycling Station, but the other party was confused and didn't know anything. Taken together, at least the credibility of this sentence is quite high. To show your sincerity, give me some of your willpower. Tao Yu took out a magnetic card from her arms. It was given to herself after selling things. It can be used repeatedly and can store up to more than 4,000 points of wish power. It is much more convenient than those wish powers that break metal. Under the restrictions of the world's will, it is impossible to transfer wishes using illusions and mental control, but voluntary can. It's rare to catch someone alive who can be suppressed, so don't waste it. You have taken risks just to get some information. The gunshot that came out of Joseph's mouth before his death and his final self-destruction were still fresh in Tao Yu's memory, so even if he was just dealing with people from outside the city this time, he would break his limbs and choke his neck from behind, out of fear. Roll over. But after Tao Yu's words came out, Li Xiang fell completely silent, showing a miserable expression. Please, Your Excellency, please be more straightforward. It took a lot of effort, and he had done this before. After hearing this, all the hopes he had originally raised were shattered. He no longer had any luck, no chance. Why? Why? If you don't give it to me, I will throw you alive among the rats. That won't be pleasant. Tao Yu stopped pretending and threatened. All that can be exchanged for is invisible silence. Do you still have to pay your murderer after you die? I won't die with my eyes in peace. After all, he had climbed all the way to this point in the horrible environment of the outer city. Li Xiang started to beg for pleasure because he was preparing to give out some true and false information, but now there was really no chance. After realizing that it might be of no use, Tao Yu used force and directly broke the opponent's neck, then he also threw the body towards the garbage mountain, throwing him alive and screaming will cause trouble. After scaring him to no avail, then he won't bother to put in the effort. Our family has been working hard, earning 300 hard-earned money every month, and we are always kind to others and willing to help others. Why do you force us? Tao Yu listened to the commotion of the rats again behind him, turned around and walked towards the inner city wall. The Li family wants to live alone and return to the inner city. That is to say, only you. The Li family, a family that retreated from the inner city to the outer city, although he could no longer stay in the inner city, he still belonged to a quite outstanding force after arriving in the outer city. Their evacuation was mainly due to the fact that the strongest man at the back of the family and a group of core members died during the development of world fragments. For the Li family, withdrawing from the inner city itself was a desperate attempt to survive, but overall it was quite decent. Therefore, it quickly established a foothold in the outer city and became a powerful force. The contemporary head of the Li family, Li Hui, is one of the 4 deputy captains of the current security team, responsible for the Nanqing area. Moreover, Li Hui is also the only one among the 4 vice captains who has no traces of mechanized transformation on his body, which is somewhat similar to the security team captain Sichuan, being able to stand in this position with a flesh and blood body without alienation implants or mechanical modifications is enough to show that his body has greatly exceeded the limits of the human body by other means, which is enough to rival or even surpass these mechanical modifications in the outer city. In the security team family area, a 3-story wooden villa with a small courtyard, and a total of 12 buildings next to it, are now the gathering place of the Li family in the outer city, compared with the junk-style buildings in the outer city. Every house in the Li family is quite satisfactory, and most of them are made of the same wood. There are more than a dozen sets gathered together, making the style here somewhat different from other places in the outer city. The ground is also paved with compacted stones, which is relatively clean. When it was generally quiet at night in the outer city, the core 3-story wooden Western-style building was still brightly lit. It seemed that some kind of dinner party was being held inside, and it hadn't ended yet. At a time when ordinary people were reluctant to use kerosene lamps, this small Western-style building was filled with electric lights, as if they were living in another world. Chapter 39 Life Experience of the Head of the Li Family. You are listening at NovelsReturning. At night in the Li family, a banquet was still being held below, but in the study on the 3rd floor, Li Lu and his father Li Hui were chatting about today's events. Father, we are short of people now. The B-level combat talent is actually a good talent, and the family background is relatively clean. If you use happiness to control it, you should be able to fully control the lone note, right? Li Lu thought of what Joseph had done when he died. That is, Joseph was besieged to death by the group of willing creatures, otherwise he would have been captured. The new gathering place was short of people, and it was really difficult to rely on a few young people at home to take their time. If your talent can reach C level, even if it is only C-, then I will arrange to accept him. But although your D level, strange power, is theoretically similar to B level ordinary combat talent, it does not count. Voltage stabilization. Li Hui said earnestly. When Li Lu met Wei Noa, he also downplayed his talent by 1 level, saying he only had E level, strange power, but he actually had D level talent. And the special combat talent of Wei Li is indeed 2 levels higher than the ordinary combat talent. Coupled with the family's night breathing technique, Li Lu thinks that he can completely suppress it, but his father did not allow it and wanted to solve all the troubles. This made him feel a little underestimated, and then he said dissatisfiedly. Don't say he's just Tao Yu's nephew, so what if he's his son? How can he compare with me in terms of talent at the same level? Li Lu, at least in the outer city, still has a mental advantage. Joseph wanted to accept others as their lackeys, why couldn't he? Oh, our family's strange power is indeed a good talent, and it is also the foundation for us to establish a foothold in the inner city. If you are facing a fight, you can crush him at will, and the help your family will give you is far more than him. Li Hui did not refute Li Li's words, but casually stood up and came to Li Lu and patted his shoulder. However, dynamic vision is a skill that is good at shooting and even sneak attacks. How about a headshot, no matter how strong you are? Aren't you going to die? Li Lu wanted to refute, but for a moment he didn't know how to speak. If we are still as strong as the inner city, then forget it, but there is really no need to take risks now, we can take our time and figure it out. Having said this, Li Hui put his hands behind his back and showed a wise smile. The growth cycle of the plants is here. We have time to wait slowly. Within half a year, 7 members of the family will choose the new development area. Based on the 8 of you, we can slowly absorb some new people after we have established a firm foothold. Having said this, Li Hui paused again. After we have harvested a few waves and are unable to suppress them, we can rely on the reputation we have gained to directly contribute to the 2 big figures in the floating city in exchange for promotion. Okay, would it be appropriate for the 2 cousins to go over there overnight? In fact, the night is not very peaceful to begin with. Li Lu slowly accepted his father's words, which indeed made sense, but arranging for 2 cousins to go there overnight was too much emphasis. Just in case, if this guy talks nonsense, it will be very troublesome. For such a capable guy, either you don't do anything, or you have to crush him to death in one breath. Otherwise, if he calls his friends to call Tao Yu, and Tao Yu calls his friends again, it will become more and more involved, and there will be countless troubles in the future. Hearing this, Li Li's heart moved again, and he said worriedly. Then has he told Tao Yu? Although he was in the walled city all day today, we didn't know for half a day yesterday. So what if I tell you? Does Tao Yu know the location? Li Hui sneered and said quietly. As you said before, he is just Tao Yu's nephew, and he is just a cousin. The relationship can only be maintained because of his talent. Tao Yu may take risks for the living genius, but when people die, nothing is left. Then Li Hui smiled meaningfully at Li Lu. Learn more, and you will have to take charge of your role in the new gathering place from now on. You will be the leader of the new generation of our Li family. Li Hui's smiling head soared into the sky, and the blood on his neck shot out, making Li Lu dumbfounded. Through the gap between the soaring head and neck, where blood was spurting out, he also saw the figure of Tao Yu slashing across with a knife, like an ink painting that has just emerged. There is still some twisted black mist remaining on the body. Hey, brother Li, we meet again. Tao Yu, who had some blood drops on his face, grinned. Tao Yu. How could it be? How is that possible? Why is he here? Father's head. Fake. It's all fake. This was also the last thought in Li Li's heart. As he opened his mouth, Tao Yu, who had recovered from the skill stack, raised the pistol in his other hand, banged. The bullet passed through Li Li's mouth, lifting his skull directly, and blood sprayed everywhere. The sudden gunfire also caused the banquet outside to pause, the music stopped, and there was the sound of running in the stairwell. Some vibrations can be felt on the wooden stairs and the ground, and there are also some vague noises. Is that gunfire? What's wrong? Go and see. Uncle's study. What happened? They are all important members of the Li family today. Even if they are withdrawn from the inner city, the Li family is still a big family and is considered very prestigious and influential in the southern outer city. The essence of holding a banquet this time is to gather all the important people together and set the tone for the follow-up. Logistics, resources, follow-up support, etc., all need to be dispatched. Li Lu alone, even with good talent, can't support this stall. Other main forces that cannot enter the new development area are mainly responsible for dispatching resources and exchanging some useful wish items. Uncle, Lu, what's the situation? We heard gunshots. Patriarch. What happened? Bang bang. Knocks on the door sounded. Tao Yu methodically touched the 2 people for a while, found a few wish items, and then disappeared into the shadows again. Bang. The sound of impact soon appeared. Facing some elites of the Li family, the door was knocked open in a few seconds, and then saw 2 people lying in a pool of blood. This moment made the people who rushed in change their faces wildly. What's the situation? What's going on? Immediately block the scene and contact the security team. An old man with gray hair stood up with a heavy face. Someone saw the hand-cranked telephone in the study, which can directly contact the security team and is a real symbol of status, but after someone quickly stepped forward to pick up the phone, he put it down fiercely and pulled the wire to find that it had been cut. Damn it! Come 2 people and go out with me, go directly. But at this moment, the lights in the house suddenly went out, as if the power switch of the whole house was cut off. What's the situation? The murderer hasn't left yet. Everyone be careful. Back to back. Light up. Fire, light up. Being able to pull wires from the city wall and light up the whole house is definitely a symbol of status. After the usual lights suddenly went out, everything seemed messy. Soon, the first scream came from downstairs, followed by the anxious sound of lighting and asking. Gunshots also rang out one after another, and there was a noise. The door is closed. Break it open. A flash of fire, and the person who hit the door was shot in the back of the head. Get out of the window. Bang bang. When the window was smashed, 2 bullets were also fired, and they fell to the ground and became boxes after being hit. Whoever runs first will die. Help. Damn it. Fight back. Where are the people? Screams, cries for help, and roars appeared one after another. In the night without the starry sky covered by the gray fog, there was not enough light, only some temporary oil lamps and firelight, and in this dark 3-story building, there were only the flashing fire of guns and screams. Lee family. Mastering the advanced breathing method of, night breathing method, with the family background of the inner city, he can become one of the 4 deputy captains of the security team without mechanical transformation and alienation, but at this time, he was facing a one-sided massacre in the dark. There were more than 1 or 2 elite members of the Lee family whose comprehensive physical fitness completely crushed Tao Yu. But in this environment, it was meaningless. A shot to the center of the eyebrows, a knife across the throat, can take their lives. Tao Yu, who constantly used his willpower to replenish his physical and mental strength, was like the god of death in the dark. Every time he appeared, he would take the life of a member of the Lee family. The screams became less and less, and finally returned to calm. The entire Lee family fell into a dead silence. This independent small Western-style building was still so magnificent, but there were only a few broken windows and a few corpses hanging on the windows. Even the dozen buildings outside were all silent, as if there was no life. Chapter 40, The Master. You are listening at NovelsReturning. Ahem, there are still masters. In the dark night, standing next to a building, holding the asbestos-like wall with his hands to stabilize his body, Tao Yu covered his broken ribs. There was also a hideous gunshot wound on his shoulder outside the bulletproof vest. With the investment of willpower, the ribs recovered quickly, and the gunshot wound squeezed out the bullet directly. In the front, he constantly replenished his physical strength and consumed more than 3,000 willpower, allowing himself to maintain a high endurance for a long time. The shadow entered at any time, and the outbreak unfolded at any time. It took more than 1,000 extra to recover from the injuries. A blood loss. In fact, he could recover by eating, but it was too late in this situation now, and Tao Yu could only spend money with pain. Then looking at the large bag of odds and ends wrapped in a bed sheet in front of him, Tao Yu didn't know how much he could make up. He couldn't search carefully. Although he cleared all the way from the outside to the inside, there should be no survivors in the Lee family. The eggs were shaken and scattered, and finally a fire was lit with kerosene, but he himself couldn't stay at the scene all the time. I could only hurriedly take back the things that looked like they might be valuable, mainly some wish power items. Are these considered dirty? Aren't they too conspicuous? Tao Yu picked up a wish power knife and could sense its sharpness and bleeding characteristics, and then just absorbed it purely as wish power. It seemed that they were all for auxiliary purposes. Although their value was indeed higher than the value of pure absorption of wish power, Tao Yu obviously had no time to deal with them, so he simply absorbed them all at once. Then he absorbed about 8,000 wish power in total. What a pity, if all were sold, it would be at least tens of thousands or even more. I don't know if a family like them has any spare treasure hiding places. Tao Yu sighed a little. He only kept 2 of the things on this bed sheet. one was a seemingly ordinary pistol with the wish power characteristic of precise ballistics. It was a very common but very practical wish power item. The pure absorption of wish power inside was only 400, but its price should be worth about 2,000, because it was a high-end mass-market product. Tao Yu left it. The other one is a long dagger, which can also be used as a short knife. It only has 200 willpower reserves, but it has 3 good willpower characteristics of armor breaking, wear resistance and sharpness, which is a small top-grade item. The others have all absorbed all the willpower and turned into ordinary items. In fact, these can also be sold for some money, but Tao Yu hesitated for a while and found a place to bury them. He is short of willpower, but there is no need to take such risks. In fact, I didn't want to take risks at night. In the previous environment, I might be shot in the head. Even if I use willpower to recover in seconds, it may not be feasible. I don't want to try. Tao Yu finally returned to the bed and sighed. Originally, he wanted to share the news and risks, but the Li family was too bullying. No, I still have to send news to the gym tomorrow. Otherwise, after knowing that the Li family was wiped out, the store manager also wanted to eat alone. What if I don't report it? Tao Yu checked the omissions and found a new problem. This world is too dark. They came to silence me overnight. I was really scared just thinking about it. Early the next morning, Tao Yu was eating breakfast as if nothing had happened. On the way to the Hound City, preparing to go to the gym to learn boxing, it was still the same scene as yesterday. A group of people from the outer city lined up to enter the city, under the condition that ordinary people in the outer city rely on shouting to pass on information. The tragedy that happened in the security team's residential area will not be passed on so quickly. However, when it was Tao Yu's turn to line up and go in, he also saw 3 people in the security team uniforms running hurriedly. The 3 people ran straight to the gate of the city. Because of their impatient running movements, many people looked over and didn't know what happened. Post these notices in your city, and arrange someone to read them next to you for the first 3 days. The 3 people from the security team came straight to the door and threw a dozen notices that still smelled of ink, as if they had just been printed. The guards, who usually behaved in a dignified manner towards other people from the outer city, smiled and nodded after seeing the 3 members of the security team. The captain of the guards handed over a few homemade cigarettes. Gentlemen, what happened again? A younger brother hurried to fetch water. The security team member who ran over in a hurry and was really thirsty pulled his collar and lit a cigarette on the spot, saying with an unpleasant face. Something big happened. The Li family was wiped out. Destroyed. Li family. The people who entered the city wall nearby also pricked up their ears to listen. Which Li family? The captain of the guard of the city wall was a little confused. The Li family in the South City. The faces of the 3 members of the security team also looked a little frightened. The crime scene was the residential area of the security team, so close to the inner city wall, and they were wiped out. What kind of hatred? What a strong strength. Hiss. Everyone nearby took a deep breath when they heard this. Something really happened. Brother Tao. What's wrong? You look like you have a lot on your mind. When Smith saw Tao Yu come over in his training uniform, he smiled. Hey, don't mention it. When I first entered the walled city, I heard that the Li family in Nanching was wiped out. What? Nanching Li family? Smith has obviously heard of the Li family in Nanching. It is said that their night breathing technique is also a unique skill. Is this going to wipe out the whole family? Smith also looked shocked. In fact, the outer city has never been peaceful. Just on the day of awakening, no one knows how many people will die every day. Unknown corpses in smelly ditches are also commonplace, but it is relatively rare for such a large family to be wiped out. Yes, I am the same age as a young man from their family. Senior brother, can I meet the owner? I have something to say. Tao Yu looked worried. Although Smith ate a big melon, it was just a melon after all. After hearing Tao Yu's words, he was happy to say. Not to mention, the museum owner wants to meet you after knowing about you. Come with me, maybe you will have the opportunity to get personal guidance from the museum owner. Compared with the destruction of the Li family, which had nothing to do with it, the owner and this junior brother were more important. Smith took Tao Yu directly towards a separate, relatively smaller wooden house. Although this wooden house does not occupy a large area, it is very delicate and much more beautiful than other buildings in the gym. At this time, there was a middle-aged man with an unattractive appearance, sitting cross-legged on a soft cushion outside the wooden house, with a cup of freshly brewed hot tea beside him, after seeing Smith coming with Tao Yu. This ordinary-looking figure who was also wearing dojo uniform nodded and smiled at Tao Yu. "You are the genius student that Smith said. You are indeed a talented person." Lu Yi, the leader of the Wanlu gym, looks really ordinary, with no exaggerated bulging muscles on his body. But just sitting there casually gave Tao Yu a feeling of blending into nature, and although his smile is gentle, his words and deeds are also very casual. But Tao Yu always had a vague sense of tension, the kind of unconscious tension that ordinary people feel when facing fierce beasts. The owner is really strong. This feeling is a little stronger than Li Hui's yesterday. Li Hui just put too much pressure on himself, so he asked Tao Yu to superimpose all the skills at once. After the killing, if he hadn't replenished his willpower, he almost couldn't recover.